Hello, welcome back to the Level 1 News. We're here on February 9th with business and robot, but it's mostly space stories this week.
Space and robot were merged for administrative reasons. That's just how it is. Almost everything in space is a robot.
That's
right?
true. There's a few humans, but not many.
It works. And there's more robots than humans in space. Mm-hmm. How about that?
There's more robots than people on Mars.
And it seems to be that there's more gaming companies, or not enough. Actually, there's more people looking to gobble up gaming companies than there are gaming companies. And that means that valuations are really, really pushing it up there. Now, this happened, of course, in our week-long cycle. So we jumped directly from the acquisition story into the explanation of why that number is so high.
Sony is spending $1.2 billion to keep Destiny 2 devs from leaving. A major chunk of the Bungie acquisition price tag is just to retain talent. So Bungie, the studio that brought us Halo, which was, I think, originally for the Mac. Something like that. I don't know. But, yeah. So a lot of the employees at Bungie own company stock. And so with this acquisition, they could just cash out and leave. But the deal was structured so that they have to stay. But if they stay, $1.2 billion of the purchase price is going to go to those employees. So
one of them described it as golden handcuffs. Because the way the money works is,
not wrong.
If you agree to it, you get a big payout, but you don't get it till the end of a certain amount of time. And you have to stay there the entire time. Also, you're almost surely thinking of Marathon.
Yeah.
Right?
Marathon?
The game Marathon?
Oh, maybe.
That was Apple's shooter back when Apple had nothing.
Maybe. I can't remember.
Can it really be that Microsoft bought something that was originally on Apple and made it their whole mascot?
I remember something like that and chuckling at the time that was like only Microsoft.
Well, there's something that we can't chuckle about because it's just really defeating when you see these kinds of numbers and you know that it's being done off of your back and you're really not getting much of the carrot.
We're a small portion of this, very small.
Yeah, but we only need a very small portion of this number as well.
Yeah.
YouTube ad revenue tops $8.6 billion, beating Netflix in the quarter. Google-owned video platform earned $28.8 billion in advertising revenue in 2021.
That's a lot.
So they got $28 billion in advertising revenue and $8 billion in gross profit. So $20 billion went to expenses and creators.
They're doing well. If you read their comments about they're really over the moon about it. Like, oh yeah, we see a huge possibilities, and then they start listing all the things that are going to destroy YouTube.
Yeah.
They really want to they want the shorts thing to pick up really badly.
Yeah, they're trying to compete with TikTok, and maybe we should do shorts. Maybe that would boost us in the algorithm.
What are our shorts going to be?
I don't know.
We literally can't have a short thought.
Yeah.
It takes me 10 minutes just to explain the thought that I'm having.
It's like 45-minute episodes of the news condensed into like a 2-second clip for YouTube, TikTok.
It's like Blipfers, but for bad technology news.
This, I mentioned in the last episode that it would be nice to have a little automated Spider-Man to pop up.
Yeah.
When people are, blaming somebody for something that they've clearly did. I think this might be like a 4 Spider-Man fire.
Right.
This is the maximum number of Spider-Mans because, my God, the hypocrisy here. But they're not wrong.
Microsoft says that if Apple isn't stopped now, its antitrust behavior will just get worse. As one crab pulls at the other crab to prevent it from leaving the bucket.
Crab bucking son of a bitch. You're staying down here with me.
So, yeah, this is all about, the whole App Store, Epic Games argument. Microsoft clearly has picked a side, but considering their past, maybe they're not the best people to advise us.
It's like they're not necessarily wrong, but...
I guess it could add credence to your statement when you're like, that's antitrust, and I should know.
Let me buy Blizzard.
Look, we were just trying to take over the browser. They're taking over your entire computing experience. What the heck, Department of Justice? What the heck?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do too much about it. I don't think anybody wants to upset the big tech apple cart before the midterm elections.
Also, a lot of those senators own a lot of Apple stock, so
that's
they don't
true.
want to.
Yeah.
It's like, what's a few electronically pureed babies between friends if that helps the stock price. I mean,
if that gets Nancy Pelosi another summer home, it was worth it.
yeah.
Really. I mean, let's think about what really matters in this country.
Rich people getting richer.
And rich people getting really nice internet. Because if this works the way they describe, it is amazing, but it is quite pricey.
SpaceX rolls out premium Starlink satellite internet tier at $500 per month. It's got a bigger dish that Elon Musk says has twice the bandwidth and capability. It's also guaranteed to work anywhere and not just your address that they're providing you service.
Pricey, they expect that to be for business customers. So I guess if you needed high-speed internet and you had a mobile, kind of like maybe a food truck.
You know, what's going to be really frustrating is that it's going to be good enough for the rural areas, and the rural telephone companies aren't going to build anything now. It's like they got all that money for building fiber, and they're just going to say, satellite service, somebody else is providing that, it's fine. They're just going to keep the money.
And
they're never going to build anything. It's not going to spur them into action.
Well, hopefully it puts them out of business. Eventually, that'll take forever. But hopefully we'll also have competing satellite providers and not what we have now with the ISPs.
Yeah. I'd still rather have a fiber optic connection, but...
Wow.
Can't wait to not be able to see the night sky because it's all filled with satellites.
It's all AT&T's fault.
Oh.
But when it comes to internet providers, even Mr. Musk, who is supposed to be on this bleeding edge of everything, is going with the monthly subscription model. And from the days when cable television came out, everybody has been complaining, hey, I'd rather not have what you choose. I'd rather have what I choose, and I'd rather only pay you when I use it. And the industry was always like, you're an idiot. We don't have the technology for that. Well, now we do, right? There's really nothing stopping us from doing it now. And these guys say that they have the solution.
Metronome raises $30 million to help software companies shift to usage-based pricing models. So think the Adobe Creative Cloud subscription where you subscribe to software and it immediately stops working if you stop subscribing.
And not only that, but we're talking about metered usage.
Yeah.
We're talking about, the dog's throwing up and I ran to take care of that and I left Photoshop open. Oops, that cost me $50 because it was running for 24 hours.
It's funny because the Adobe Suite it's really not getting any better.
It's really not.
And it still costs the same amount of money, and Adobe's really not doing a lot to...
It's a subscription service is what kills me now.
They're really not doing a lot to propel the industry forward.
We really jumped off of the actual story there and just crapped on Adobe.
Yeah, well, listen.
They're a
They're
great
not
example.
involved. They're not doing this as far as we know.
No, they have a subscription software.
Yeah, there's a subscription
But
now.
it's not metered.
No.
It's a monthly... See, these guys want to get away from the monthly subscription.
To where it's just usage-based.
And it's usage-based for everything.
But I mean, that brings up, Wendell, you said rather, where oops, I left it open because the dog vomited, and
Right.
now.
Yeah, Adobe would absolutely do that if they could.
Yeah. And they'll do nasty things like, it was still in the system tray.
Yeah.
You didn't understand that it was in the system tray? Sorry, you still owe us money.
And then you have to close out all your documents at the end of the workday, every day.
Oh, you had it open on your phone? Ooh. That's really going to cost you.
See, isn't this the thing that the economists call capturing all the fluidity in the market? Because, if you can, buy a product and your labor turns it into value, then you get to enjoy all of that. But if the amount of labor that you put in is proportional to how much you have to pay for the software, then they basically become your partner in whatever you're doing that's creating value. Which ultimately leads to the large companies capturing literally all of the economy.
And the government. And the regulators. And you know what that leads to? It leads to chemical spills.
Yes.
Almost
Good
indefinitely.
segue.
Now, you know what? I didn't see any stories. Did they get the fab back up from the power outage?
I don't know. Maybe.
But, old Samsung, now, to their credit, they are bringing fabs into this country, just like Intel. It's what we need, right? We got to be, whenever the Chinese war kicks off, these are going to be very important. But they do have environmental consequences that we as Americans are used to foisting onto the Chinese people. It's like, you can't breathe? Well, we sure love our phones. But now it's in our backyard.
Samsung says the leak that was caused up to 763,000 gallons of wastewater spill fixed. This article is really forgiving calling it wastewater. It was acid.
It was very diluted, though. They were very careful to point that out.
It was so diluted. Just a little bit of acid.
It was so diluted, there was not one single fish found alive for the entire stretch of the creek.
Yeah, they saw some iron coloration on the side of it, and they were like, that's weird. And they looked, and yeah, for sure, there was an underground pipe that had burst, and no one knew about it. It was like 100 days or something?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I wonder if that was a winter weather thing, but if it's been under there for 100 days, absolutely not.
It literally killed everything.
Oh, no, it's not been 100 days. Spill investigators, no, that's when they looked at the thing. It did give a number of days, but wouldn't you have gotten a water bill? I guess it was wastewater, right? Yeah. So you're only paying when it's coming in. Yeah. But weren't you looking at your reservoirs and you'd be like, something's not right with
You're driving into the factory at night and you're like, what's all that scum on the water? What is that?
How does the whole factory smell like sulfur?
What a happy happenstance. We're not producing as much waste as we usually do.
I bet local fishermen noticed that way sooner than anybody else, and they brought it up at like a town hall meeting and everyone was like, it's fine.
Everything died.
I think they own that property.
Yeah.
They own the tributary, so there probably wasn't anybody fishing there.
Wow.
It's on their own. But, it's groundwater, so...
Of course, yeah.
Even though they own it, it doesn't mean that so...
Well, hopefully that won't be too lethal once it leaches into the potable water.
That's actually the scariest thing about the story, because they were like, we're not real sure what the long-term consequences of this are.
It's a few years ago we had bourbon leak. Was it the Kentucky River?
Yeah.
And it killed all the fish.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we know we can drink that.
But you can't drink
at least
that
it's
much
not acid.
You know what? Fish could probably drink a little bit of it.
But yeah, not as much.
They just can't breathe it.
Yeah.
Try snorting bourbon, Krista. You won't cry.
I won't like it.
Yeah. And the acquisitions continue to roll on. Will this one happen? Actually, there's already questions.
Cloud computing virtualization company Citrix to be acquired for $16.5 billion. Citrix, once the juggernaut of virtualization, has been surpassed by pretty much everybody else in the industry. This is a surprising acquisition too. It was like, what was it? It was a company that I hadn't heard of before.
It was one of those like investment partner. Vista Equity Partners, an affiliate of Elliott Investment Management called Evergreen Coast Capital Corporation.
Hopefully this doesn't turn into a company that starts suing people for intellectual property violations.
You think there's any tax shelters amongst all that jumble of subsidiaries?
Oh, yeah, probably.
So, yeah, that's the thing. They were also big with like remote access early on, and how hilarious that in a world where remote access and cloud computing are like the most important things in the universe, now they're just being sold off because they're not really competitor anymore. It goes quick, folks. You don't stay in the limelight for very long in the tech world. But your mistakes do. They'll just keep coming back to haunt you. And as much as you try to fight it, when you do something really, really overwhelmingly bad, you can't escape it.
Intel fails to get Spectre and Meltdown chip flaw class action suit tossed out. So they're being sued after all of this since 2018. And procedurally, they were saying, this shouldn't count. We shouldn't be able to be sued. But the judge has said, no, you can.
The sub-headline there, cheesed off customers. I have never heard that turn of phrase.
Well, the register's a European site, isn't it?
Oh, maybe that's a British English thing. Cheesed off.
Yeah. So they actually did throw away everything that came before the date where it is agreed. I don't know if it's true or not. Probably they knew a lot earlier. But September 1st, 2017 is when everybody's sort of agreeing that Intel knew. So the people that are getting away with this lawsuit are the people who said, I bought after September 1st, 2017, specifically that holiday season, and they could have told me that they were selling me something that was broken, but they chose not to. It's a strong argument.
Yeah. Also, the evidence about trying to pay researchers to make them keep quiet for well past the industry accepted practices for that.
Yeah. Imagine if somebody did that in like a really important field like the pharmaceutical industry.
Or imagine that you had a company that was paying some people, don't report that we spilled all that acid and killed all those fish. Just give us like 6 months.
No, it's bags of cash. You have to
bags of cash, yeah. We didn't say that.
Augmented reality. I mean, we see headline after headline about it. I don't see people walking around with big glasses on anywhere.
No.
Of course, I'm not walking around a lot.
I just don't get the appeal yet. I mean, maybe in 5 years I'll be eating my words, but
I think a lot of people feel about augmented reality and NFTs that they got the FOMO so bad because they missed crypto.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, this is the next one. This is the one. This is going to make me a billionaire.
But as evidenced by Meta's stock price, not so much.
Yeah, well, it does bring up a lot of questions about privacy and ownership and real versus fake. It's going to be hilarious.
Who owns your address in augmented reality? Probably not you. So this is a story about a guy who found his address in an augmented reality game, and someone else was in his house, and he's like, I didn't even know this was a thing.
It's, what was the name of it? Upland. You ever heard of Upland?
Nope.
Yeah, so Upland is apparently some new thing. Now, here's the crazy thing about it.
It's blockchain powered.
Well, that makes it perfect, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I don't understand. So this guy found his house in Upland. Someone else had bought it, but was renting it to other people in Upland.
Yep.
Why would you rent the property?
Why would you? Yeah.
It's free real
why?
estate.
Yeah, but
Free virtual real estate.
I mean, like, what does renting that property get you in the game? I don't understand that.
Same thing renting gets you in real life. More
Shelter? I don't need it in a game.
That's why I don't
Is it a
understand
survival?
any of this. Like, why would you buy a fake house?
I might rent a house in Icarus.
Where are you going to put your NFTs?
Yeah, I need to show off my apes on the walls of my fake house.
You sell somebody a fake product and then sell them fake storage to keep their fake product.
That's exactly what it is, though. I think that's really what it is.
Would you like to unlock more storage?
That's the problem, though, is that there's not a standardized way of dealing with that yet. Like, how do I keep all my virtual stuff together?
Well, that's another thing they bring up is if you were to go, you're like, all right, I'm going to make sure that nobody gets my house because it's important to me for whatever reason to own my digital house. And you buy it in Upland, that has nothing to do with the next 10 virtual
of the
reality.
same things.
Yeah.
It's just why? Who cares?
Why? Who cares? Might also be a question that you would apply to this. I mean, it's impressive. It's, I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to move the industry, and it's nice, but I don't think it's very practical.
The world's fastest gaming monitor hits 500 hertz refresh rate. You dig into the details. It's like, is this some new manufacturing process? Yes, it's a totally new manufacturing process. Is this coming to commercial monitors? Maybe, maybe not. The company that made the manufacturing process doesn't actually manufacture displays. This appears to be a PR stunt to get somebody like Samsung or LG to buy their process from them so these can be mass produced. This is not a mass production product right now.
But it does appear to be real. They didn't mention what kind of video hardware they were using to push that frame rate.
It might be, if it's 1080p or a lower resolution, modern hardware could probably get close to that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that is very important to you if you're a young esports gamer. But everybody else, I think we can deal with, the 300 or so that we get from other monitors.
I'd still be plat, even with that fancy monitor.
Well, the actual panels themselves struggle with 300 hertz.
And, cryptocurrency, blockchain, peer-to-peer, it's all hot right now. You just say that. It's like, actually, it began with the whole, when Bitcoin really started to shoot up, remember people just renamed their thing to blockchain.
Oh, yeah.
And
the Blockchain T Corporation.
Web 3.0.
You promise some crazy thing, and somebody's like, well, how are you going to accomplish that? And blockchain is like this panacea answer where you're like, it's just blockchain. And they're like, all right, take my money. This is one of those situations, but this gentleman who is in charge of it has a bit of a checkered past.
Anthony Levandowski's latest moonshot is a peer-to-peer telecom network powered by cryptocurrency. So he's selling hardware from $1,000 per unit to $10,000 per unit. It's basically a portable cell tower for these phones. And if your phone wants to use one of these cell towers, it's to do with this cryptocurrency. So if you buy a cell tower, you can start to gather and collect this currency.
You're not referring to them as the proper names, which is the cell tower is a flower. The users of said cell tower are the bees, and then
how dare they slander bees that way?
The cryptocurrency that's going to fuel all this, because you get paid for hosting it, is the pollen. And you've got like a pollen coin. If you will host his box in your house through your ISP, by the way, all this bandwidth is just your home bandwidth, then you can collect pollen as the bees use your flower. which sounds very salacious. That guy's a criminal, though, so.
Maybe don't. Maybe just plant a real pollinator garden.
I don't think that's going to help your wireless signal at all.
No, but think how much it'll help the real bees.
Yeah, the idea is that, this is going to be used for a wireless mesh network.
And he's like, hey, get independence from the existing ISPs and do this totally new thing. No. You're still using Comcast or, whoever.
I guess theoretically, if there were enough of them, you could maybe host one of these without a connection because it would just mesh things together, but we're not there yet.
But how fast are they going to shut that down at the ISP level?
Yeah.
They're not going to tolerate that. They're going to change your user agreement if there's not already something in there that would stop that, and they're going to come down hard on you for wasting their bandwidth. And not wasting, you should be able to do whatever you want with it, but it's not the world we live in.
How dare you make ravioli with this water?
This is spaghetti water. Says it right here on the can. And Wordle. Krista, you're still hyped for Wordle?
Yeah, I play Wordle.
Did you play today?
I did.
How many times did you have to guess?
I think 4.
What was today's word? You don't have to worry about spoiling because they won't see this right away.
Oh, I don't remember what the word was now. I do it while I drink my coffee, and then I immediately forget. I could probably do it twice in one day and not remember.
Does it remember you, though, or is it?
It does, yeah. So if you go back before it flips over for the next day, it'll be like, oh, here's your score. Like you've already played it for the day.
Is that a cookie?
Probably.
So they're tracking you.
They are.
And they're probably going to be
tracked by Wordle.
Yeah, they're going to be doing a lot more of that because I didn't know the origin story of Wordle, but it was just some guy who came up with it.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be owned by something much more powerful.
Which I hate.
The sudden rise of Wordle. Wordle, a popular word game, was purchased by the New York Times on Monday. He probably could have got a lot more money from it, but it's such a simple concept. He's like, you know what?
There's already a dozen different ones that are pretty much the same thing. There's Loodle, which is, of course, lewd words. There's Sweardle, which is swear words. There's Lord of the Rings Dul, which is Lord of the Rings related words, which that one's not very good, but there's a lot of different ones.
Aren't the Lord of the Rings, most of the custom Lord of the Rings language, aren't they really long?
No, not always, but when I played it, I figured it was going to be like Elvish words or like Rohirric words, like actually invented words. The one I played, it was just round. I was like, what the hell?
Round?
Yeah, so I guessed like Rohan, and then I was like thinking of other words that I knew. I was like Rodnir, Rochalor, and then it was like round. I was like,
that doesn't make any sense. Like, is it just a word that appeared somewhere in one of Tolkien's books?
I don't know.
Is that
Sometimes the hobbits are described as round. I don't know where it came from.
Are they confused about the franchise? Do they mean short round?
I don't know. I wasn't impressed with Lord of the Rings Dul, but yeah, New York Times got it, so that means they're probably going to monetize it eventually, like they did with their crossword puzzles.
Put it behind their little paywall there.
Yeah.
Ooh, but yeah, I think that will destroy it.
Yeah, I think so too.
People aren't gonna stick
so
with it
too.
for that reason. Well, the electric vehicle situation continues to be crazy because did you see? I think is it who has the one that they are like giving up on? Is it? It might be Chevy, the Bolt. Is that
maybe?
But anyway, one of the companies has this car, and there's been so many recalls that they're literally thinking about. It's like, okay, maybe we just stop because
we could improve this, but what if we just gave up instead?
We're already losing money on this. But then hilariously, those companies are so bad. But when Biden does his little, like, hey, come and let's talk about electric vehicles because I love green energy, he won't let Elon Musk anywhere near that place, which is just so funny because it's the whole union thing. But it seems like they're inevitable, and we need a better way to deal with the charging infrastructure. Maybe this is it.
A roadway will charge your EV while you're driving. I'm going to wait for the Thunderfoot and or EEV blog video on this to tell me why it's not going to work. Otherwise, in my head, I'm just imagining it as in F-Zero when you mess up your car and you drive over to the side and it's the...
I feel like we've seen this headline over and over and over again, and I don't know that it's ever come to fruition.
Well, it's a much different environment, sure, but that Japanese maglev train,
yeah,
that's how that charges.
Yeah.
And it like literally just floating above is able to charge. So I think you're going to be close enough to the road, but that thing is also like a giant infrastructure of iron and electromagnets.
Yeah.
Our roads aren't going to be able to deal with that.
Not long term, especially not with ice storms.
One drunk truck driver is going to pole vault his drive shaft, and then it's just going to be, $500,000 in damages.
Or think about like when a pothole gets too bad, and now you've exposed
The charging.
very delicate stuff under there.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to maintain these roads. Especially,
We don't maintain our roads now.
Yeah, and civilization's only going to start falling faster after this. So
You know what works? Those hooks that the streetcars have. So, you drive over to the side and you hit a button and maybe an antenna pops up, one of those motorized antennas. You charge your car with that. That's way less complicated.
you have to run lines everywhere.
Not everywhere, just, for the 5 miles of charging road that you have.
I don't think it charges that fast with that. Well, I guess if you're using the physical connection, it would charge much faster.
Yeah.
That's also going to be a lot of live electricity.
Ooh, yeah.
It works fine for streetcars and cities. That's live electricity, too.
But nobody else is driving on those tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that working out very well. But hey, it'd be great if it did, right? I mean, it'd be great if you were just cruising along and you know what's going to happen, though? You're going to be driving along, you're just going to rear end somebody who's sitting still, and you're like, what are you doing? So, I had to charge a little, so I just stopped.
I was on empty. I had to just, we're running out of charger in another mile or two.
If I pull off the road, I won't charge, so I just stopped. NFTs, God, they just keep catching on more and more, and it seems like at this point, every company has to announce something, right? How can you be the company who's not on this cutting edge? And it seems like they expect the super rich to be into NFTs.
Ferrari wants to take its real world wow factor to the metaverse. Yes, your Ferrari NFT. That sounds great. So great.
I feel like we're in some boring dystopia material where the super rich have gotten so super rich they can't find enough stuff to spend their money on. And they're like, now I just need fake virtual goods.
Are you saying that they're trying to take their dollars that are quickly becoming worthless and transfer
Just put them in
into
anything
something
else, yeah.
Can you imagine? Someone tells you, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, it's $250,000 for the car, but we're going to need an extra $50K for the NFT.
And they'd probably pay it, because what's $50K if you're mega rich?
What if you just barely got to the point where you can afford that supercar, Krista?
I wouldn't buy a supercar.
I bought a Corvette I could barely afford. We exist.
Not me. I drive my cars into the dirt until it won't go no more.
Well, Windows 11 has a long history of features that no one wants, and it continues to roll those out. They continue to get worse. But here's the thing about it. Many of those features are not only intrusive, but they hurt performance.
Hiding Windows 11's Teams icon doesn't just save taskbar space, it also saves RAM. Because it looks like it's not running, but it's always running.
In fact, when you start up your computer says, well, let me just go ahead and preload Edge and Teams, because I know you're going to want to use those, because they're so good. Somebody commented last week, it's like, what do you don't like about Edge?
I thought it was Teams, yeah.
What don't you like about Teams?
Didn't we discuss it in the episode?
Yeah, I thought so. Copy paste. Have you tried to copy paste in Teams? Teams will copy paste styles from whatever you copy from, even if they're the same color as the background in Teams. Think about that.
It's also janky. It's like weird and slow, and it doesn't respond well.
But when you copy code, a code snippet where the white space is very important, it will cut that out unless you use the code snippet filter. If you're defending Teams, don't comment on our videos anymore. You're out. You're done.
I mean, it's better than some stuff we've used. Like, I think it's better than Skype, but that's not a high bar.
I think that when you copy paste from like Visual Studio Code, it also, like, I usually use Visual Studio Code in dark mode. It will copy my Visual Studio styles over as well, and it's just like, that's weird.
And if you're using light mode and you copy something out of Visual Studio Code that's highlighted like light blue or something, you cannot see it anymore.
Yeah.
So you can copy something out of code and you paste it, and whether you're in light or dark mode, some of it is not visible.
Also, sometimes the keyboard shortcuts for copy paste just mysteriously stop working.
And how about the notifications on mobile?
That's the most annoying thing.
You know what? We could do 30 minutes on why Teams is terrible. We won't, but we could. But you know what else is dying off? And this was not an industry that was growing anymore, but I think the pandemic really put the nail in the coffin here.
Sega leaves the Japanese arcade business for good. The new buyer is called Gigo, Gigo.
Probably Gigo.
So yeah, not a lot of people going to arcades right now because nobody wants to get sick.
I'm kind of surprised arcades are. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe it's like a social thing, but
Right now, arcades should be super popular because you can't buy a video card or a console.
But I think most arcades have moved away from video games, the way we think of them, because the investment is so. If you're trying to get graphical fidelity on par with modern home equipment, yeah, it's actually a very expensive box.
yeah.
The last time I was in Taiwan, most of the arcades there were around the skill-based games
Right.
that gave you awards.
Yeah.
Or it was a hybrid. Like you could play a video game, but it would give you a teddy bear or something if you got through it in a certain amount of time.
Well, I think that's true of most arcades, right? They got the ticket system.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's like, oh, you spent $30 to get 500 tickets. Here's a spider ring. Enjoy that.
Maybe one day I'll be able to save up to get a lava lamp. That's all I wanted when I
Yeah,
was a
but
kid.
a lot of the machines were just like those claw machines or like the machines that have the Xbox if you can put the key through the hole. and
Right. Or Konami, the video game Konami. They went entirely to making those, was it pachinko machines or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Like that's all they do. And they take their IPs. So you do like the Castlevania gambling machine, the Metal Gear gambling machine.
Nice.
Way to run that company into the ground. I bet they got hurt real bad because they kind of pivoted to that, and then now.
Yeah. Should have pivoted the other way because if they had a home console that was running Metal Gear, they might have been able to sell that.
Except they don't have anybody that can make any decent games anymore because they've abandoned them all.
Probably couldn't get the parts either.
Well, moving on to the robot section, which is really mostly the space section today, and it's mostly the space graveyard section.
Oh, sad. Spooky.
Today's theme is things in space that we don't want anymore.
The International Space Station will plummet to a watery grave in 2031. Oh.
That's not like a foreboding prediction. That's exactly what we expect to happen. In fact, we're going to cause it. So rip space station.
Maybe we can figure out where it's going to land and get some souvenirs.
It's going to be in the ocean.
No, the Pacific.
Like precisely where it's going to land. I mean,
Could be anywhere in the Pacific.
Save up for the level 1 video of it's like, hey, let's go get space station parts, because why not? It'd be funny.
Those would probably sell a lot on eBay.
I think we could probably make more money and we can kick our plan off much faster if we do that with F-35 parts.
Good news, everyone. We bought a maritime salvage entity.
We'll make a lot of money, but we'll probably be roommates with Julian Assange by the end of it.
Yeah.
But it turns out that, getting garbage out of space, the space station is going to be nice because it's all like one nice package and you just dunk it right in the ocean all at once. It's easy to get rid of that. It's easy to throw away a space station. Much harder to throw away a satellite that you no longer have control of. And we desperately need that because there's too many of them up there.
The Pentagon is looking for garbage collectors in space. No, seriously, the Pentagon is looking for contractors to pilot satellites next to other satellites to rip them out of orbit or debris or whatever.
The numbers, though, were pretty low. So if you're a company, then you're like, hey, I think we could clean up in space. I think we have, the ability to do that. We need some funding. They're only going to give you $250,000, which in terms of space travel, not a ton of money.
Seems like this would be hardwired then for Blue Origin or SpaceX or one of those.
Didn't we just set up Space Force for this? Couldn't they be our intergalactic?
They're the military, not the
Garbage men.
custodial arm.
What if Elon Musk is like, okay, we're taking our Starlink satellites and we're ripping out the Starlink guts and we're putting in this little servo harpoon thing. And so we launch one of these little micro satellites and it can harpoon one thing and pull it out of orbit. And they probably would be like, that sounds good. Here's your $250,000.
Problem with the harpoon is fragmentation.
Yeah.
No, like that's super serious.
Magnetic harpoon.
You're gonna cause. Well, how about we just hug?
Fishnet.
We want to hug them out of orbit. We want to gently embrace them and drag them down till they die. Or actually, in this case, you don't drag them down. You drag them up out of the way. We have a belt of just dead satellites up there. But the problem is, I don't think the Pentagon will want to do business with this company.
The Chinese satellite just grappled, or a Chinese satellite just grappled and pulled another one out of orbit. Wow.
That was a Chinese satellite that it grabbed, but it could have been somebody else's satellite. And that could cause a lot of problems.
It was also a space trash satellite. They said it was one of their old like survey satellites or something like that. And they said that, hey, it stopped responding, and it was due to its orbit was due to decay anyway. So definitely not a military exercise, but of course the U.S. military was freaking out, saying, "Oh my!"
I mean, it is kind of a demonstration of what they're capable of, right?
But they didn't need to get rid of that satellite, right?
They could have just let it go.
Yeah, that would have been fine if it was floating up there. This was totally, first of all, a test, and second of all, a message.
Well, it's like Russia parking its fleet over the transatlantic cable, right?
Well, Russia, in fact, recently, if you'll remember, shot a satellite out of the sky with a missile and gave the same excuse. It's like, oh, it was a garbage satellite.
Yeah,
we need to get rid of the garbage satellite. But we had to move the space station twice.
Because it made a cloud of debris.
Yeah. At least the Chinese version doesn't do that, right?
Small mercies in these strange times.
I mean, we really can't say that they are planning to do anything nefarious. They did nothing wrong here. This was perfectly acceptable if they did. But they could do something really nefarious with it. And there's nothing we could do about it yet.
It's like the slightly deranged kid on the playground, goes over and like crushes a tree stump with his hands, and it's like, oh, don't make him angry.
He's just killing caterpillars, and you're like, well, I mean, I guess that's okay, but also kind of weird and messed up.
Now, if you don't get your garbage out of space, or if you create too much space garbage, you risk something like this, which is just embarrassing.
A piece of a SpaceX rocket is on track to collide with the far side of the moon. The moon has captured it in its gravitational well, and it's not a stable orbit.
So when we finally settle on the moon, Elon Musk garbage is going to be there before us.
There is something kind of sad about that, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's so much garbage in space. If there are aliens, do you think they just pass Earth? Sometimes they're like, God, what a dump.
They roll the window up.
Lock their door.
I don't like to smell that. Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, like, civilian space travel is accelerating at such an amazing pace. I don't think we're keeping up with the safety.
No.
And like dealing with the trash, and just overall, we're gonna have a huge. Let me give you a crazy prediction here. Right, I was thinking about this the other day. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Lusitania, USS Liberty, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, Syrian chemical attack. What if the next one shoot down a spaceship? Mm-hmm. What if a starship gets knocked out of the sky to start World War III? That would do it.
That would
absolutely do it. The American people would get behind that.
Yeah, because everybody loves NASA.
Exactly. And a lot of people love Elon Musk. One tweet from him is going to do more than anything Biden says. Watch out for that, chat. Watch out for space false flags. They're coming.
All right, now we can all take our helmets off for this portion. But think about it.
And I would say to this headline, I believe that I'm just more comfortable in general with that gender, right? if I have to interact with somebody, I don't think it's got anything to do with robotics.
People prefer interacting with female robots in hotels, study finds.
This is also notable with just about every assistant software. It's always a woman.
What about Bixby?
Does anyone use Bixby? No. I actually don't know. I actually don't know if it's a man or a woman voice.
Jeeves was a male. Is that it?
Yeah, so like there was a study a while back that pointed out, because it was like Siri, Cortana, Alexa,
Cortana.
Yeah, they're all women. And is that because of, people inherently feel more comfortable, or is that like some sort of low-grade sexism where it's like, oh, the woman serves me?
Yeah, I guess that they kind of pointed to that in that story.
Yeah, they're not sure. I mean,
but it could also just be, and it is just more pleasant to hear a woman's voice, I think. Right?
I mean, well, it used to be Microsoft Sam, and then they switched it to Microsoft Anna.
I think it's kind of telling in the age of where it's like, oh, gender should not even be something we consider, which is fine. If we just don't want to consider gender at all in some aspects, that's fine. But clearly the tech companies are not doing that. They want you to accept theirs over the other one, and that's an advantage they will not ignore. Or just give two voices, right?
Just talk about Microsoft Sam versus Microsoft Anna. You could pick either one.
I would like to choose male, female, or cat girl.
Ooh woo. I preferred Microsoft Sam because he would do the Rafflecopter thing, and I was really upset when they removed him for a while. His voice was just funnier.
Well, the self-driving world, isn't it crazy how the self-driving world, like we thought we knew who was going to be the winners, and now
we don't know.
It's nothing like that. And like, is Uber even doing the self-driving thing anymore?
No.
Like, they all gave up on it because it's so hard. I mean, Tesla's still doing it, but it's not real. It's fake self-driving. And that leaves perhaps Cruise and Waymo, we've heard about Waymo, to pick up the slack. And they seem to be just like iterating, inch by inch, they're doing it.
Cruise to offer free robo-taxi rides in San Francisco for the public without backup drivers. This is a PR stunt, but that's a PR stunt that's definitely needed to get Cruise ahead of Waymo in the public eye.
So you can go to their website and sign up for this if you want. And they said it will be within weeks that you will be able to use this service. And there will be nobody in the car with you, which means those cars will be disgusting by week 3. There's going to be peanut butter so deep in those seats. And,
someone just eating almond butter out of it.
Much worse things, too, but the peanut butter will be the most visible of all of them.
You hope it's peanut butter.
You definitely don't want to run your finger through it and test it. You do not want to do that. And finally, we have AI that is supposed to, usually when they talk about jobs that AI is going to replace, at this table, we feel pretty good. Because we're like, yeah, that's never going to happen. We're going to have to fix the problems that causes. But as an average programmer, I'm terrified of this one.
DeepMind says its new AI coding engine is as good as an average human programmer.
You know who else is an average programmer?
Boiler Snake.
He does not like this.
I was maybe a little less impressed by this because the sheet they gave it was very detailed, and I was like, no client I've ever known has given a sheet that detailed to me.
Yeah, so this was not real world coding examples. This was a challenge, a coding challenge. And then they gave it the exact same prompt as people, but as you can see, you have to do like text manipulation and stuff like that. You're not solving an actual problem here. And I think you're right. I think the very specific details are not something that a robot can expect in a real world.
Yeah. Like, if you gave it the input of, I want it to ship this thing, but only on a full moon, and when we've sacrificed goat's blood, it's going to be like, what? What the hell are you talking about? Like, but clients come to you with those kind of requests all the time.
Oh, we didn't talk about this, but it turns out that people can use it in an entirely different way than we ever described to you.
And you're going to need to go back and refactor all that code to account for that use case.
This seems deliberate. Why would you do this?
I would love to have a prompt like that, but most of the time you don't get that.
But also, it seems like there's going to be a terrifying thing here like Spectre, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some flaw that's embedded so deep in the house of cards of AI, house of AI cards. We find out it's a foundational card, but everything that's been written using that foundation is affected by it.
It's a log4j problem embedded in the generated code. No.
And so now we have to throw away all that code, but humans, they don't even know where it begins and ends anymore. Yeah. And then, space Lusitania. And we're all dead.
Well, we've got a lot of nonsense lined up for Friday. You've got that to look forward to.
I think it's almost all nonsense.
Friday's going to be a lot of fun.
A little bit of design and social media. Just a hint.
Teensy.
A
teensy
sprinkle.
bit.
Friday's just bananas.
All right, we'll see you guys then. Bye.